So we'll probably have to do a second part of the resolution, even though there's only 3 that actually. I'll have to do a second part.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on, sorry, just gotta get all of the things sharing.
The resolution, even though there's only 3 that actually. I'll have to do a second.
Okay, there we go.
Ready?
All right, so we are ready. We're recording. We're on YouTube, and I'm actually about to share it now to Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, but hi everyone, welcome live. We got a couple people attending live, and we're super excited to have everyone on. Today we have none other than James Blackman joining us. He is 10-time trophy award winning. I'm kidding. No, he actually he's a member of the 5th Episcopal District. He was raised and developed in the politics under Yvonne Kennedy. And if you knew her, I was supposed to tell you that. I think everybody knows by now, but she is someone who very much understood the politics of the church and was very keen and very adaptive to the politics of the church and just kind of who we are and what we do in the CME church. James is also someone who has served on the resolution committee several go arounds at this point. And he also has been, I think he might have been the young adult who has been the delegate the longest at this point. Will this be your third?
My age now, wait a minute.
Well, I'm not trying to give you age away. I'm just thinking just because I know you started going pretty early. So it's very possible that.
Yeah, I started in 06, 16, 14, and now 18. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Thanks, DeAndre, he said he's from the 4th and him and Devin Guy go to the same church. So I'm glad that you're here to learn, and we really appreciate, you being on here and joining us for this event. So I just want to make a couple announcements for the Young Adult Ministry. First things first, this is the General Conference course. Normally it is both myself and Thelma Princess Woodard. Well, Princess Woodard, because she didn't like for y'all to say her first name, but she is, as we all do with Connectional Offices, she's actually at a local church event today. And so I'm covering for her. So what will happen is James will start doing presenting on resolutions. This is the 3rd class we actually have had about resolutions. The first class was Reverend Manuel Henderson, who presented on resolutions and kind of their function and what the format of resolutions look like. I went through a class about actually writing resolutions and how to actually write them so that they're formatted properly. And James is going to talk about the resolutions, what's in the booklet, resolutions to be thinking about, and what the next steps are now that the resolutions will be coming forward. And especially even if you're not a delegate to General Conference, you can lobby for resolutions by attending the committee and listening in. So even if you're not a voting member of the delegation, you can impact and influence the voting members of the delegation. So this is very important even if you are not a delegate. But no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to James. And then at the end, once you're all done and after we've asked our questions, then I'll make a couple announcements about the Young Adult Ministry. So.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. Again, sorry, we were trying to do this the last class so everyone could have their book with them, but I have the only copy that's actually been developed yet. You see how thick it is. So, yes, but there's only 80 resolutions that have been turned in and submitted for the booklet. But as you all know, there will always be a supplement book printed, as well as each annual conference can present resolutions from the floor once the roll is being called on every day of the General Conference. So for those of you who are delegates, don't think just these 80 resolutions will be the only ones that we will receive. We've already received about 6 after the deadline. So just be looking forward to that. Looking through the resolutions and having to examine them all, there are only 3 that we really have to deal with and worry about. The other ones really have to deal with itinerancy and episcopacy, which we all should be aware of, but they really won't impact the function of the Connection Young Adult Ministry, which is a good thing. And there was one resolution that was not in here that I wish someone would write, hint, hint. It is about separating, although everyone is saying it's not officially a part of the Unity Summit, separating the Young Adult Retreat officially from the Unity Summit. So it won't be any backlash when we get ready to host the next retreat in 2019. But with that being said, let's get started.
Question real quick? I'm sorry, can I ask a question real quick? Because it was submitted during Connection of Board, does it still need to go through the discipline? Because it was formally submitted through Connection of Board as a resolution and something that passed and was voted on during Connection of Board.
You would have some of those who would say, no, it doesn't have to, because General Board is actually working in connection with the General Conference. To be on the safe side, so it could be in the discipline, I would resubmit that same resolution again, because things that happen during General Connection Board normally won't make it into the discipline. So any kind of legislative changes that were made during General Connection Board will not make it into the new 2018 discipline. So I would just be on the safe side, just resubmit the one you already that was already submitted during General Connection Board. Okay.
And one last follow-up to that. I know how we have operated, but in the discipline in 2014, when it says the people who are under Unity Summit, the Connection Young Adult Ministry is not listed as someone who is a part of the Unity Summit. And so should we still have to go through this perfunctory?
That was left out of the discipline in 2014 when we met in Dallas, because we were on a short time period. So a lot of things that happened in 2014 actually are not, disclaimer, and we just say are not in the discipline. But you have those resolutions still, and people still who were on those committees still know. But just to be on the safe side, just to redo it. We'll just submit it. Don't even redo it, just submit it.
Okay. And for those of you who are participants, if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll either promote you to panelist or type out your question and we'll make sure to answer it. I'll be moderating to make sure that that's all, that it doesn't get missed.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. There are 1, 2, 3 resolutions regarding young adult delegates to the General Conference. As you all know, each Episcopal district does their delegates differently. And I was shocked to find that out because my interpretation of the discipline, all annual conference are to have at least 1 young adult delegate. It does not say 1/2 young adult delegate, or the clergy delegate has to be a young adult delegate, or the lay has to be a young adult delegate. It just says at least each region has to have at least 1. So there are 2 that are trying to clarify that language inside of the discipline. And there's also one that I strongly think will pass, is for continuing education units for lay officers. And I encourage all young adults to strive to be a young adult, well, a lay officer in your local church, your district, your annual conference, as well as in your Episcopal district as well, because we are desperately needed to assist the other lay workers to get things done. We are the youth and we have the energy that is needed, and they have the wisdom. So wisdom and energy can work together. So I encourage each of you to do so. Is there a way I can share a screen?
Yes, if you have it on your computer, at the very bottom, it says share screen.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, it should be like a little green button, and you should it'll give you options of which screens to share on your computer.
Oh, okay. Well, since the book is not printed, I'll share the book with you all. Don't tell everyone you all saw the book yet. But I'll share it with
live
you
on YouTube, by the way.
Hello, YouTube. Sorry. Okay. Let me pull up the book.
And can you do us a favor while you're pulling up the book? Can you talk about also the amount of people who were on the committee, who compiled the book and who collected them and all that kind of thing? Can you talk a little bit about that side of the process too, in case anyone ever does on that committee, serves on that committee later?
By September of the year preceding the General Conference, each Episcopal district is to promote or announce their member of the Resolutions Committee. The Resolution Committee, you can find that in paragraph 206, I think, of the discipline in 2014. And what we did was we received all the resolutions from our various annual conferences. We reviewed them because, you know, they have to be in a specific order and format. So we reviewed them, make sure that they are in the correct format, and we compiled them for the General Secretary of Publication to print and distribute the resolutions. There are 11 people, as you know, on the committee. Bishop Thomas Brown served as our chair this year. And if you do not know the people who were on there for your Episcopal district, they are Reverend John Mason was the rep from the first, Miss Twella Lewis White from the second, Reverend Nova Shun from the third, Dr. Deborah Coleman from the fourth, myself from the fifth, Reverend Pansy Washington from the sixth, Miss Cathedra Miller from the seventh, Miss Berta Johnson from the eighth, Reverend David Isom from the ninth, Mr. Friday Ben from the 10th, and Reverend Deondo Magungo from the 11th. And so I hope that you all know who those individuals were so that you can get in touch with them if you have an idea for a resolution later. Again, like I said earlier, resolutions can and will be called for and presented on the floor of the General Conference every day from June 22nd through June 28th. So when we do the roll call and you have a resolution that you would like to present, please get with your delegation from your various annual conferences. And together, collectively, you all say that this is a resolution that you all want to present on the floor from your annual conference. And it must be received at that time. It cannot come from myself or Reverend McIntyre or anyone else. It has to come from the annual conference delegation at this point. So.
You have a question as we're working through. Could you read? It says, could you read the resolution or the paragraph in which it will be changed?
I'm going to show it to you just a second.
Okay, thank you. So he's going to show it to you as we walk through the book.
Which one are they asking about? Well,
it's for the person who it is. Can you tell us if there is one in particular that you are looking for, or just any of them in general? I'm waiting for them to type again.
Okay.
So when you type again, then I'll make sure to read it out.
Okay, here we go. Now let me share the screen.
Of the three that you're speaking about.
Mm-hmm. Do you see the screen? Okay. Are the resolutions?
Yes.
Are the resolutions? Okay. And as you can see, did Reverend Isom go over the numbering of the resolutions?
No, go over all the number of the resolution, what the book looked like, all of that stuff.
All right, good. So looking at this resolution that's on the screen, this is a resolution for the Department of Evangelism and Missions that was submitted from the first. You can see on the top right-hand side, you see the number 2018-05-39. 2018 is the year, obviously. 05 is the committee that resolution is assigned to. Each resolution is assigned to a committee that will look over, make sure that it is in line to the mission of the CME Church, and it is something that will benefit the CME Church. As you can see, 05 is the Evangelism and Spiritual Life Committee, which deals with us reaching out to the least lost and the unsaved, and as well as the spiritual life of our members within the church. So, and number 39 is the number that the resolution is. So this is resolution number 39 for the Evangelism and Spiritual Life Commission. The acronym SCOMA, which stands for Standing Committee Action. This is which the resolutions has been referred to, whether the standing committee recommends concurrence, that they agree with the resolution, and thereby asking that the General Conference likewise approve the resolution. Non-concurrence, which is non-con. If the standing committee is not in agreement with the resolution, it will recommend non-concurrence, recommending thereby that the General Conference likewise not approve the resolution. And most times, and a lot of community can attest to this, all resolutions will that they agree to will come out with the last one is which is concurrence with change. So that means the resolution and the standing committee agrees with part of the resolution, but they disagree with some aspects of it. And they recommend that we agree with it with the necessary changes, and they will point out those changes. So, and then GCA is the General Conference action. You know, whether General Conference agrees with it, yay. They don't agree with it, nay. They want to amend the resolution. That means we want to send it back to committee, and they make the necessary change that their General Conference is asking for, or they refer it to another committee or another time, which most likely will be the next General Conference. So that is that. Reverend Isaac that went over that part.
I do have one quick question about that. So if there is a resolution, and this is, I'm kind of getting into some of the other parts of the actual voting of it, but just because I want to know, if something happens and the committee votes non-concurrence, that they don't agree with it, can you still bring it up on the floor if it's your resolution and ask the committee to still bring it forward toward General Conference?
Yes, well, what we do, each resolution will eventually come back to the floor. The committee will, if the committee recommends non-concurrence, you will have the opportunity to go and ask the committee on the floor of the General Conference, why did they vote non-concurrence with it? And then that time, most likely, whoever the presiding officer will say, you get with the committee and you explain your rationale behind that. So you'll go back to committee, and then if the committee agrees with your rationale behind it, they'll make the concurrence, or the concurrence will change, or they will stick to their normal and first mind, which will be non-concurrence. So you do have the opportunity to actually debate your resolution, but it is preferably done within the committee. So if you have a resolution that you have permitted, or there's one that you feel strongly about, I would strongly recommend that you go to that committee meeting once they have them. Even though I know it's going to be hard because everyone will be on their own committee, but if you feel strongly about it, please go to that committee while they're discussing and debating that particular resolution. I'm just scrolling through all of them so you all can see a lot of what's going to be taking place. So you can't say I actually gave you all the book, but you actually see what's going on. This is going to be a big one.
Is that the one about support for preachers?
Mm-hmm. Yes. They want a minimum salary set.
Yes. Well, there is one set. It's just I think they want to have it enforced.
Yeah. They want. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And this actually came up about 3 times, the same exact resolution. Then there are a lot of repetitious resolutions. Okay, here it is. Take the screen down so you all can see it. Okay. This is the first resolution that we will have to deal with that directly affects the young adults. And it is a resolution to clarify General Conference clerical delegates requirements. And as you see, this one was written by our former president, Reverend Keenan Winters, who was also a member of the 5th Episcopal District of the Southeast Alabama region. And the resolution states, whereas paragraph 201-4 of the Book of Discipline addressed the voting eligibility of clerical members of the annual conference, provides detailed requirements enabling the selection of clerical delegates to the General Conference, specifies the following: be at least 18 years of age, a member of the CME Church, and having traveled 4 years from the time they were received on trial, and are in full connection at the time of holding of the annual conference. And whereas paragraph 201-4 does not specify or detail similar requirements with regard to eligibility of the clerical delegates who are to be elected. Be it therefore resolved that the new reading says the clerical delegates shall be elected by the clerical members of the annual conference. Clerical members of the annual conference shall not be eligible as candidates or privileged to vote unless they shall be at least 18 years of age, a member of the CME Church, and shall have traveled at least 4 years from the time they were received on trial and are in full connection at the time of holding of the annual conference. The rationale I think behind this, and maybe Amina can help me with it, during the annual conference, there are some members who are on the itinerant track, but are not in full connection. And they have desired to be members of the General Conference delegation. And so what has been reportedly happened, I don't know where that has happened, that person is elected as a lay delegate instead of a clerical delegate, when they technically cannot be a member of the lay delegation because they are on the itinerant track. And once you make your confession stating that you want to serve the Lord in a higher purpose and call to preach and teach, is where you are no longer a lay member once you become a member of the annual conference. And once you go on trial, you are technically and officially a member of the annual conference, not a member of the local church anymore. So that is why this resolution, I don't know, I have not spoken with Reverend Winters about it, but from reading this is what we can gather from this resolution. So this one will affect those members of the itinerant track who want to be members of the annual General Conference delegation, but you technically cannot.
Right, and it could also speak to, and like I said, I haven't spoken with him either about it, but it could also speak to the fact that sometimes people get stuck on trial for a very long time, and therefore once they are stuck on trial, it's really like being in limbo. I know I've met some people who've been on trial for 10 years, and which is another conversation all in itself. But if you put somebody on trial for 10 years and they want to be able to be full voting members of the delegation in the annual conference, then you get to a point where it's really frustrating, and you kind of want to be like, well, can I just either get off trial or be considered lay, or because it's just not right to be stuck in that way. So I think it might speak to several of those issues.
Yeah. And
So
he also wrote another one, the next one, which clarifies the young adult delegates to the General Conference. Again, I've not experienced this myself, but I've heard that In some annual conferences, the election of the young adult delegate to the general conference has been either a split or shared vote, which in my opinion, there are no split votes, or they do not have a young adult delegate at all. And so Reverend Winters has addressed this, basically saying that the young adult delegate shall be at least 18 years of age in order to vote for general conference lay delegates and shall have been a member of the CME Church for at least 4 years at the time of holding of the annual conference. At least one young adult, 18 to 35, shall be elected as one of the regular delegates from each annual conference. And that is the key word there, regular delegate. There are no half delegates. So, and this actually was passed in 2014, but it did not get, like I said, it did not get inside of the discipline. So he's just resubmitting it to be included in the 2018 in 2018 discipline. So for those of you who do not know, each annual conference shall have one young adult lay delegate. This is the clarification. It does not state that the young adult delegate is a clerical delegate. It says a regular young adult lay delegate. So with that, I have a young adult delegate who is a pastor. That's good to have a young adult that's a pastor, that's a delegate from your annual conference. But one of your lay delegates must be a member of the young adult age bracket. So, I have any more questions? I have another question. Amina?
I have one, but I think I'll text you about it before I put it out there on YouTube.
Yes, ma'am. All right, there's one more that I wanted you all to actually take a look at. And it is this one. Continuing education units for lay officers. As you all know, each person who's on trial or pastor has to have a number of CEUs each year. And so we're just trying to enforce or get a guideline of how you can actually assess the number of CEUs that each lay officer receives during the year. And this will be used at your fourth quarterly conference by your presiding elder to see if you've actually done your duty as a local lay officer. Have you been to winter council? Have you been to spring convocation? Have you been to annual conferences? How many church conferences do you attend? Do you have officer training? If you do, have you been? Do you attend Sunday school? You know, things that an officer is supposed to do. And this is only a developmental stage. So if you have any ideas regarding this, or you think that there are better ways that we can actually assess CEUs for lay officers, please take a look at this resolution and be brainstorming. If you need any ideas or have anything you want to shoot out, I'm sure Amina and I know I am available to help you all get this done, because that is one of the problems or the stereotypes that we have to face as young adults. They say that young adults are not consistent. Young adults do not participate within the church, but only on Sundays, when that is a blatant lie. Because if we go by CEUs, by what you participate in and what you attend, I think a lot of us will actually have more than the requirements, because we are at everything. We are actually leaders of our annual conferences. So please take a look at this. And that's why I want to let it sit up there for a little while longer so everyone can actually look at it. And if you have any ideas, just let me Yes, ma'am, I got yours. If you have any ideas, just let me know and we can brainstorm about it. Actually, I'll pull yours up next after I go to the one from. Did you want me to discuss the one? Well, no, we'll talk about that offline. The collegiate ministry.
I think it would be good to discuss if we can at least pull it up and bring it, because it is one that was spoken about during our webinar call. I mean, because if it actually came up, that's cool. That something that we worked on during one of the calls came up.
Yeah, it came up, but I think it changed from when we looked at it on the webinar. There's a financial aspect of it.
Okay.
And that came from Dion in the third, right?
Yes.
Look at that one, you guys.
Accountability, justice, and healing. Okay.
Sexual harassment.
I'll be honest, I can't. Yeah, I think there's a lot of sexual harassment ones that are going to come up because that's kind of a hot button issue right now in our church for a lot of different reasons, which I will not talk about today. But do know that we will give some space during the young adult retreat if you are there to talk about the resolutions here, and especially ones that really make a difference to us and in the life of our church going forward, because accountability, I think, is going to be a big deal this time around, and what that looks like and on all different levels of the church, actually. So definitely keep your ears out for that one. It's going to be something. So
let's do it that Thursday. Well, while we're on this one, let's hold the college ministry. Let's look at this one. Okay, it has been rumored, I don't know how true it is, that annual conferences are trying to combine to get their delegate strength more than what it currently is. And as you know, each annual conference is required to have one member per every 2/3 of one member for every 21 members of the annual conference. That determines how many delegates each annual conference has. And the Dallas Fort Worth, Texas annual conference have consolidated, giving them a total, I want to say it was about 60 delegates compared to the 28, 29 that they did have. So this will be a hot topic. And this is a resolution that was submitted by Ms. Angela Davis. And if you all know her, she's very vocal during any conference that she's at from the third. I think she's a member of St. Paul. So just be on the lookout that now they're asking that a minimum of 10 general conference delegates, that's minimum, be given, and it goes up based on the amount of your assessed budget for each annual conference. So let's take Southeast. We have 11 delegates now, based on the number of members that we have, because now it's not based on the assessed budget, it's based on membership. What she's proposing is that we receive 10 general conference delegates, 5 lay and 5 clergy. I can just only use lay. We'll have 5 lay, and based on what her calculations is, per 150,000 of assessed budget, we would only have 8 delegates. But it must be split between lay and clergy. So I don't know. The question would be, how would you decipher how many clergy delegates and how many lay delegates that each annual conference has? So keep this one on your mind in the back burner.
Right, and that would be a good one even for Georgia, because we have a lot of delegates, because we have a lot of churches and church plants and things of that nature.
Yeah. And so be looking out for that one. I think Dion is next. Here it is. Take the screen down just a tad bit. Can you all still see? Okay, this is a resolution that was submitted by Reverend Dion Broughton that we discussed earlier. And he's asking that the CME Church share by implementing a new and necessary way to reach the world, particularly young adults, with the good news of Jesus Christ by adding a collegiate ministry in subsection entitled Division of General Christian Education. I don't think that's the right title, but Division of Christian Education, chapter 50, paragraph 1126, stating that the collegiate ministry of the General Department of Christian Education shall organize and promote collegiate ministries on college and university campuses across the United States under the needed programs related to collegiate ministry that will follow a strategic plan organized by the Director of Collegiate Ministries. The General Secretary shall appoint the Director of Collegiate Ministries, and the Director of Collegiate Ministries shall organize a strategic plan that will be presented to the General Secretary of Christian Education for implementation. It's also asking that we increase the budget of the Department of Christian Education by $20,000 to support the Collegiate Ministries National Lunch and planting of campus ministries. Also stating that Christian education budget be $115,000, which is annually. I have not spoken with Reverend Broughton. Have you, Reverend McIntyre?
No, not since he brought it forward. But I think I understand a lot of where he's going. See, and it would be good to, I don't know if he's planning to come to the retreat but it would be good to, even as you see people who have written these resolutions and you know who these persons are, to ask them like, hey, how can I lobby for this? Or I have questions of clarification. Also, he didn't put his email address. He put just his phone number. I was going to say it also, when you get the resolutions, I don't say bombard everybody with the calls, but if you want to know more about their information, about their resolution, I would call them or email them and be like, hey, can you clarify something? Because I think the idea of having a collegiate ministry is really strong. It's something that I know that Dr. C has been thinking about how to reach the college ministries much more. And I do know that, for example, well, at least it's actually on white college campuses, like especially InterVarsity and several other.
The church.
Yeah. And some
they have.
Right. Have specific collegiate ministries. And so it would actually not even be it wouldn't be something new, but just kind of catching up. And I would even look at like the collegiate ministry website that he posted. And looking at that particular strategic plan to understand more. And I do wonder about, I think 20,000 is it's a nice asking. We got to talk about budget another day. I'm going to get in trouble if I say something today, so I'm going to leave it alone. But yeah.
But I said, I do not see the budget increasing this general conference, because there have been a couple of resolutions submitted that it does not increase because there's been hardships on a couple of the Episcopal districts. I'm not going to say which one, but I'm sure everyone knows one that has particularly been struggling the past 4 years. And so seeing and believing and praying that no increase is added this quadrennial, I would see it very hard to add an additional 20,000 to the Department of Christian Education's budget without it being taken from somewhere else. And I do not want it to be taken from what we're trying to do as a young adult ministry when it actually could be included into what we're doing. So I think we'll have more discussion on this once we get to New Orleans. Right. I'm pretty sure.
And I will say this might actually be public knowledge by now that I think that there is conversation about increasing our budget anyway.
Yeah, it is, but I don't.
Yeah.
I pray not.
If it increases our budget here, then it would, the way our church works is it would come from somewhere else. We haven't mastered revenue streams very well, which is something we will talk about actually at the retreat. We got a lot to talk about at the retreat. Like,
I know.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not a business meeting. I keep saying it's not a business meeting, but we will talk about what's happening in the church. We will talk about some business of the church. We just won't be doing any voting or major shifting in that way, which is why it's not a business meeting. But we will be talking about some very important things. So we will live stream too. So if you're not able to come, you'll be able to watch. And that's going to be important to know as well.
I'm trying to pull yours up.
I'm looking at some of these people. I'm like, boy, y'all had time to write. Like, Lord, I was like, boy, I wish I had the time to write that some folks did. Oh my goodness. Is there one about specialized ministries in here too? Oh my goodness.
No, not this year.
Okay.
Glad. Well, it's not special. Well, that's the only no specialized ministry, but they're trying to expand the Department of Evangelism and Mission. I can't think of the man's name. He's from the first, bright skin with afro.
Oh, Philip Nelson.
Philip Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he submitted a resolution to expand it, the Department of Evangelism and Missions, to have a paid staff. I'll reserve my comments to myself.
Right. So, and as we're having this conversation, I know we're talking, if anyone, because then no one has raised any other questions. If you have questions, please do like make some note, either type a comment or raise your hand so that we can see you and we can address your comment and your question.
Okay. And so the last one that we'll discuss is the one that was presented on our behalf from our very capable president, Reverend Amina McIntyre.
Oh, Lord.
She will be lucky I love her. I'm telling you. But I'm gonna let her discuss it, even though it's what we've already talked about and discussed, but I'll just let you lie before, even though I'm sure it's gonna pass. And we don't have any problems. It's on my committee, but I'm sure it's gonna pass. So if you have anything you want to share with us about it. Yours talk about clerical delegates. Oh, so it is different.
It's slightly different, actually. It's both. So what we are asking for is an increase in young adult delegates, not just and I thought I remember the one passing before, but still with there being the young adult lay, young adult clerical, and being able, because there's this a longer conversation about how we get pigeonholed as young adults. That's its own other conversation, because what has happened is they're like, okay, well, you're young adults, so we're going to split this vote up, or we're going to only allow you to run as a young adult delegate, which I don't think is right. But what I wrote in was about having, actually is through, I think in this one is actually ends up being 3 young adult delegates, if I'm not mistaken. So, well, no, I think maybe this is just 2. I think this one's just 2. So it basically says having at least 1 young adult clergy and 1 young adult lay delegate. So there's basically at least 2 young adult delegates from each annual conference. And I think at one point when I was having conversations with people, we actually did have a conversation about we really should also be advocating for an alternate too, but we figured, bump it up once this time. But also the big thing is making sure that it cannot be split, and it actually should have 2 delegates. So.
Yeah, because as it reads now, as we read with the one Reverend Winters presented, the clerical one does not specify. It just says that you have to be at least 18. It does not specify that one must be between the ages of 18 and 35. And as you all read and hear the language that I'm saying, inside the discipline, if it says shall be or must be, that means it has to happen. If it says can be, it's up for discretion by whomever is interpreting it. So that's why please be specific in your language. It must, if you want something to happen, it must say shall be or must be. Because if it says can be, it can be done and it can't be done. So I'm glad we did bring that part up.
Yeah. So, and even if you have a resolution that you're bopping around in your mind right now, and you want to drop it in on the floor, then it definitely make sure it says shall be, so that you can make sure that part is there. That language is really important.
Yes. And I think this was going to be it for today. I'm looking at the other resolutions. The big issue, another big issue, we will be revisiting the social creed. For those of you who do not know, in 2014 in Baltimore, the social creed was the topic of the week. Some wanted change, others, which I'm a member of, believe that you cannot change something that you did not write, which we know the social creeds were written by whom? John Wesley, not any members of the CME Church. So, but there are some things that should be addressed within the social creed, and maybe we should come up and make a committee to establish and create a modern social creed that we implement inside of our discipline. That way, because we know the world has changed since the days of the first Methodists. And so as the world has changed and evolved, so should our meaning of social creed, social justice, and what it is like that we as members of the Methodist persuasion should do and how we should conduct it. So that being the case, do we have any questions? Let me go back to the 3. Okay, can you read the resolution of the paragraph, which will be changed? The one that it is paragraph 201, 201.0 through 0.5, right, which addresses young adults.
Right.
So, DeAndre, do you have any questions, or is there anything you would like to learn more about while you have me and Reverend Dr. McIntyre on the phone?
Yeah, y'all be trying to send me back to school. Y'all stop. I got enough letters behind my name already, so. Okay, so if no one else has any more questions, I'm excited to get the book and start to delve in. I got my highlighter color scheme already, all ready. Get my little thing together. Got my little colored pens.
I'm tired of the book.
Got my little colored pens. They can't see it because you sharing the screen, but I'm ready.
How do I unshare? Okay, how do I?
At the very at the top, it should say something about stop sharing your screen.
Okay, there you go.
And you click that, and then you'll be down. Yeah.
There we go. All right, Tiffany, you don't have anything you want to ask?
I know we had a couple anonymous folks who came on earlier. I don't know if any of them have any questions. And I'm not on YouTube.
Yeah, Miss Pryor. Isn't she one of the young adult reps?
Yep, hold on. We got a question. Oh, he said, okay. All righty. So there might be some people who contact you outside of this. Okay. Some people who contact you outside of this to ask questions about some different resolutions that still need to come forward. And how to go about doing that. So,
all right.
Well, we're so grateful for your time. Like, you lasted longer than you thought you were going to. You were like, like 5 seconds.
I know. I thought it would be quick, but I mean, but that's and honestly, this is really what general conference like inside your committees. You can say, oh, we only have 5 resolutions we're going to get done with, and you being there till 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So those, we have another question.
Okay, DeAndre just said he said he's good. This is new to me, so I'm just trying to understand the basics.
Okay.
Feel free to keep asking questions. We also, if you have, I'm not sure if you've seen some of the other YouTube videos, feel free to go back and read some of them. Read some of them, watch some of them, because they're quite informative. I learned a lot while watching them. I was like, oh, I didn't know some of that information, and I've been around general conferences for a long time. So, yeah.
And excuse my appearance, you all. This is not my haircut week. Last week was, so.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'm going to make some announcements. I haven't made any of the CM announcements yet. But we're going to be pushing it now. But thank you, Brother James Blackman. We appreciate you. Let me make a couple announcements. And we did not pray before this one. I'm sorry. We normally throw a prayer in there before we jump in. And so we'll do a prayer at the end.
I'll pray at the end.
Yeah, we'll encompass both the knowledge we've already learned and are going forward out into the world. But I do have a couple announcements. First things first, if you are a delegate, a book of resolutions is coming. If you are not a delegate, find a delegate. All of their names are listed in the Christian Index, like all of them.
I know what I need to say.
Okay.
Also, each delegate will be appointed to a committee. You should already have been notified what committee you will be serving on. I hope, speaking a couple of weeks ago to some young adult delegates, they have not heard of what the committee they will be on. So please read up on all of the 9 committees so you will have a better understanding on what each committee does, so it won't be such a big culture shock when you go in. Because once we get in, it'll just be work. You won't have time to explain what it is that you're actually doing. So.
I will say just an amendment to that. If you are in a district that has an extra large delegation, such as the Georgia North District, you may not be assigned to a committee, but you still need to assign yourself to that committee. So that means that you need to be like, I'm going to this committee and I'm rolling with them until the cows come in and they come back out again. So in actuality, if you for some reason are not, because I'm actually not assigned to a committee, so I get a chance to decide which one I want to go to. Yes, well, I'm Georgia North. Georgia North has like 1,000 people, so there are plenty of people. But I will be deciding which committee I want to sit in on and where I would like to voice my opinion. So,
Connection of ministries.
Yeah, well, yeah, we know that that's where I'm going. So clearly, but so please do keep in mind that is an important part of this process too, is knowing the committees that you're going to be on, and as was recommended to us by Bishop Reddick a couple times ago, he mentioned that if you can get your hands on some of the previous minutes of some of the general conferences, even if you get a chance to see one book of it, so you can just kind of see how they go and all the things that are covered. We only have 7 days as opposed to the 10 days. So just keep in mind that some of those things will go pretty quickly, but you can kind of get an idea of how quickly things go by reading the minutes.
Maybe we should make a resolution go back to 10 days.
Yeah.
We pushing it. You remember the people turned the lights out on us in Baltimore?
Yes, they did. They did. I mean, because as Dr. Burns told us last time, if it doesn't get covered during general conference, it dies. You have to start it all over again. We got to talk about that because we're going to talk about general conference and self-care and taking care of yourself, because people, yeah, like ambulance calls, it's a lot. So you got to take care of yourself. It is a rigorous process. If you're new to this process, it is rigorous. There's a lot that happens. People's emotions get high. So just temper yourself and be ready and be real prayed up when you go. Like, just start working on your Bible verses and your fast, but don't fast while you're there. Because we are dealing with politics of the church, and politics in any level in any place can get nasty. With that said, 2 Connection Young Adult Ministry announcements. First things first, the next class of this will be on April the 22nd, and I just don't remember off the top of my head who is coming. But Princess knows. I think that's the panel I think it might be a panel. I gotta remember. But it is April the 22nd, which is a Sunday at 5:00 p.m. So just know that we will be there. The second thing I do want to make sure that we announce is that the Connection Young Adult Retreat, we are still registering people. So if you have not registered for the Connection Young Adult Retreat, tell your mama, tell your mom, tell your sister, tell everybody who's a young adult, and also some people who are young adult alumni, to register and to book their hotel and go ahead and get all that in. You want to try to stay as much as you can. We start kickoff on Thursday night. On Friday, we have classes. We'll talk about some resolution things. Dr. Crutchwell will be there, as well as Dr. McLaurin is going to come too, who is running against Dr. Crutchfield, because we think that everybody should meet all of the people who are involved or could possibly be involved in our Christian education ministry. Also keep in mind too, that we are having a pop-up shop on Friday night. So if you have somebody who has a business and they want to be able to sell their book, or they're an author, or if they have like a small business, you can come and be part of the pop-up shop so that you can get your stuff out there and people can invest, because we really believe in investment. Also in the fall at the Unity Summit, we kicked off a pledge for young adults. We're going to talk a little bit more about the pledge and who can apply for the pledge, because we really want to invest in young adults and in the local church. And so it'll be a mixture of college students, as well as local persons who might have some hardships, as well as young adult ministries who are trying to do events. And so that's a very important thing that is unique to the young adult ministry. So keep that in mind. And make sure that you vote for the young adult choice awards. Damn, I don't know what it is funny. But we are
nominated.
Huh?
I heard I was nominated.
I don't know. I haven't seen the list, so I don't know. I want to be surprised, honestly. We're gonna have to get like Ernst & Young and have them like lock it up, be like, this was held by the accountants at, so that no one sees it. But we have some people who will be nominated, and you can nominate people from your area, and we will recognize the young adults who are doing things, and definitely recognize, especially if you know some young adults who just aren't known on a connectional level, but everybody knows them in their region because they are doing big things all the time. Nominate that person. Don't just nominate the people you think we should, like that, because they're present. Nominate people who we have never seen before, because the local church, and the missionaries say it all the time, if it don't happen in local church, it does not happen in the church. So we really want people, especially folks who work all the time that we've never met before, who are doing work and who are, busy, not worrying about the recognition or coming on a connectional level, but are doing work and dedicated, because they say young adults don't exist and that we're not around and we're not doing work, but we are. We're here. We are here, and we're present, and we're ready to roll. So,
and that's a form of motivation as well. So let's do that.
Absolutely. So, but that's all that I have. I think I've covered everything for the Young Adult Retreat. And so if all hearts and minds are clear, Mr. Blackman, would you take us out with the word of prayer?
Yes, ma'am. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you, we praise you, and we love you. We thank you for being God that has been with us through the night. We thank you for being God that has been with us since 1870, that will continue to be with us as we go and venture into the wilderness and do the work that you have called us to do. Now, Lord, we ask that you would be with each of us as we depart from this webinar, but never from your presence. We ask that you would be with us during this week. A lot of us are returning back to work from spring break. So continue to bless us, keep us, and cover us. Give us your grace and mercy to strengthen our hearts, minds, and bodies. These are the things we ask in your son. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining.
Night.